Hong Kong, 1964. The August heat made the air dense, almost solid. Master Wong Shun Lung's Kung Fu school was on the third floor of a dilapidated building in Kowloon, where the smell of incense mingled with sweat and old wood. Wong was 42 years old, with the body of a veteran fighter, hands calloused from decades of breaking wooden boards and opponents' bones. He was known throughout Hong Kong as the man who had never lost a challenge fight. 73 victories, 0 defeats. Some said he was the best living Wing Chun fighter. Others said he was simply the best fighter, period. On that Thursday afternoon, Wong was sitting in a wooden chair in the center of his kwun, surrounded by 15 of his most advanced students. They had just finished an intense Chi Sao training session, their hands still vibrating from the constant pressure. That was when a young man entered through the door. He was 23 years old, slim, 5'7", tall, moving with a lightness that seemed almost dance-like. Bruce Lee. Bruce was not unknown. He had been a student of Ip Man, the same master who trained Wong. But Bruce had gone to America, to San Francisco, and rumors said he was teaching Kung Fu to non-Chinese, breaking the millennia-old tradition of keeping martial secrets within the culture. Worse still, they said Bruce was modifying traditional Wing Chun, mixing it with other arts, creating something he called Jeet Kune Do. To purists like Wong, this was heresy. "Master Wong," said Bruce, his voice calm but carrying through the silent room. "I came to speak with you about something I heard." Wong did not stand up. He just looked at the young man with eyes that had seen hundreds of challengers. "And what did you hear, kid?" Bruce took a step forward. "I heard that you said in an interview that modern Kung Fu is becoming useless, that it's turning into dance, performance, something pretty to watch, but that doesn't work in a real fight." The silence in the room became absolute. Wong's students exchanged glances. This was true. Wong had given that interview 3 weeks earlier to a local newspaper, harshly criticizing modern schools that emphasized elaborate forms and acrobatic movements instead of brutal effectiveness in combat. But no one expected someone to come confront him about it. Wong finally stood up, his 5'9" height and 176 pounds, making Bruce look even slimmer in comparison. "I did say that, and I stand by every word. Most schools today teach circus, not combat. They teach movements that look pretty in movies but get you killed in a street fight." Bruce nodded slowly. "I agree with you." The response caught Wong off guard. He had expected challenge, anger, defense, not agreement. "Then why are you here?" Bruce chose his words carefully. "Because in the same interview you used my name. You said I was a perfect example of this problem. A kid who went to Hollywood to do tricks for cameras, who forgot what real fighting is, who is teaching a diluted version of Kung Fu to Americans who want to feel powerful without doing the hard work." Wong did not deny it. "That's what I think. You were a promising student. Ip Man spoke well of you. But you chose fame over mastery. You chose to modify an art that took generations to perfect. You have no respect for tradition." Bruce took a deep breath. "I didn't come here to discuss philosophy, Master Wong. I came to make a request. Let me show you what I've learned. Let me demonstrate that what I've developed is not circus, not dance, not useless." Wong's students began to murmur. Was this a challenge? Wong raised his hand, silencing them immediately. He studied Bruce for a long moment. There was something in the young man's eyes, something Wong recognized because he himself had it at 23. Hunger. Not for fame or recognition, but for validation of something deeper. The need to prove that his path, however non-traditional, had value. "You want to challenge me?" asked Wong, his voice low but clear. Bruce shook his head. "I don't want to fight you. I want you to attack me." The room erupted in incredulous whispers. Wong frowned. "Explain." Bruce pointed to the center of the kwun. "Stand there. I'll stay here, 3 meters away. When you decide, attack me however you want. Punch, kick, any technique. I'll demonstrate that I can intercept and control any attack you make. If I fail, I publicly admit that everything you said about me is correct. If I succeed, you retract your statements." Wong almost laughed. Almost. But there was something in Bruce's posture, in the way he stood relaxed but centered, that stopped the laughter. "You know how many men I've defeated in challenge fights?" Bruce nodded. "I know. 73. That's why I chose you. If I can do this against the best living Wing Chun fighter, no one can question the effectiveness of what I've developed." Wong looked at his students. They were tense, waiting for his response. Refusing would mean losing face. Accepting would give Bruce exactly what he wanted. But Wong hadn't gotten where he was by refusing challenges. "All right," he said finally. "But with one condition. If you fail, you don't just admit you're wrong. You stop teaching. You close your school in Oakland and never teach Kung Fu to anyone again." The weight of those words fell over the room like a stone. Bruce did not hesitate. "I accept." They took positions. Wong in the center of the Kwun, Bruce 3 meters away. The students formed a circle around them, silent witnesses to what was about to happen. The August afternoon in Hong Kong seemed to have stopped. Not a sound from the street below penetrated that third floor. Wong assumed his Wing Chun stance, guard high, weight distributed, ready to explode in any direction. Bruce simply stood, hands relaxed at his sides, feet shoulder-width apart. There was no visible tension in his body. He looked like he was just waiting for a buzz. "Whenever you're ready," said Bruce calmly. Wong studied the young man. He looked for signs of preparation, muscle tension, any indication of how Bruce intended to react. He found nothing. It was like looking at still water. 3 seconds passed. Wong decided not to think anymore. He exploded forward. The attack was a classic Wing Chun straight punch, the vertical fist, aimed at the center of Bruce's chest. It was a strike Wong had used 1,000 times, refined by decades of practice, executed with speed that made younger men look slow. His students had seen this punch drop countless opponents. But the punch never landed. The instant Wong began his forward movement, Bruce shifted, not backward, not to the side, but slightly inward, at a 15-degree angle that put his body off the line of attack but kept him dangerously close to Wong. Bruce's right hand rose, not to block but to redirect, touching Wong's wrist with pressure so subtle it almost wasn't there. But that touch was enough. Wong's punch momentum was diverted by inches, enough to graze past Bruce's shoulder instead of hitting his center. Simultaneously, Bruce's left hand was already moving. It slid under Wong's now committed guard and touched his neck, fingers positioned exactly over the carotid artery. It wasn't a strike, it was a controlled touch. But everyone in the room understood what it meant. If Bruce had applied pressure, if he had used a real strike instead of a demonstrative touch, Wong would be unconscious on the floor. It all happened in less than a second. A blink of an eye. Wong's students stood paralyzed, their brains trying to process what their eyes had seen but couldn't believe. Wong froze. Bruce's hand was still on his neck. He could feel his own heartbeat against the young man's fingers. He could feel how vulnerable he was, how in a fraction of a second he had gone from attacker to prey. Bruce withdrew his hand and stepped back, returning to his original position. "Again?" he asked simply. Wong did not respond immediately. His pride was wounded, but his analytical fighter's mind was in full mode. What the hell had just happened? How had such a small shift completely nullified his attack? How had Bruce found that opening so instantly? "Again," said Wong, his voice harder now. This time he didn't telegraph. He simply attacked, a low kick aimed at Bruce's front leg, something to throw him off balance. Bruce lifted his leg at the last microsecond, letting the kick pass under him, and in the same motion pivoted his body, his hand touching Wong's back as the master's momentum carried him forward. It was another control touch. Bruce could have pushed and dropped Wong. He could have hit his kidneys. Instead, he just demonstrated that he had the position, the timing, the advantage. Wong straightened up, breathing a little heavier now, not from physical exhaustion, but from growing frustration. He tried again. A double punch, vertical fist followed by hook. Bruce intercepted the first and evaded the second with a minimal head movement, so small it seemed impossible it was enough, but it was. His counter-response was a touch to Wong's temple. Knockout point, demonstrated, not executed. 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Each attack, the same result. Wong couldn't land on Bruce, couldn't even force him to retreat. And each interception, Bruce demonstrated where he could have ended the fight if he wanted. After the 7th attempt, Wong stopped. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something he hadn't felt in decades. Doubt. Doubt about everything he thought he knew about combat. The silence in the room was total. Absolute. No one moved. Wong's students were watching their invincible master, the man who defeated 73 challengers, being completely dominated by someone 20 years younger and 33 pounds lighter. And worst of all, Bruce was making it look easy. No visible effort, no heavy breathing. He was just there, like water finding its way around rocks. Wong looked at Bruce, really looked, for the first time. "How?" was all he could say. Bruce relaxed his stance. "You're right about many things, Master Wong. Traditional kung fu is being diluted in many schools. It's turning into performance. But you're wrong about one thing. The solution isn't to cling even tighter to tradition. It's to evolve. It's to take what works from every art and discard what doesn't. It's to train against real opponents, not just practice forms. It's to question everything, including your own masters." Wong remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he bowed. A deep bow, of genuine respect. When he straightened, there was something different in his eyes. Still pride, but now also curiosity. "You won. Not just physically. You proved your point." Bruce returned the bow. "I didn't come here to beat you, Master Wong. I came to show that there's more than one path to truth in combat." Wong nodded slowly. Then, to everyone's surprise, he smiled. A small smile, but genuine. "You want me to retract my statements? I'll do better than that. I'll publicly say that Bruce Lee taught me something today. That tradition without evolution is slow death." He extended his hand. Bruce shook it, and in that handshake, 4,000 years of Chinese martial tradition met its next generation. 10 seconds. That's all it took for Bruce Lee to change the mind of one of Hong Kong's most stubborn and traditional fighters. Not with words, not with philosophy, but with pure and undeniable demonstration of effectiveness. The story of that day spread through Hong Kong's kung fu schools like wildfire. Some called it luck, others called it a trick. But the 15 students who witnessed it knew the truth. They had seen the impossible become reality. They had seen the future of martial arts defeat the past, not with disrespect, but with evolution.